Yo, what's up everybody? Today I'm about to make a video. It's not an update video. Today I want to touch on a topic. I'm curious what you all think. This topic, or this thing I like to call, is like the optimization syndrome. Ooh, like, spoiler alert, this video might be a little spicy. I'm not exactly sure. I'm curious how this will end up. Just curious what you all guys think. So yeah, we're just gonna get right into the video. Okay, first we're gonna get into what I deem as the optimization syndrome. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is I've run into a number of people, specifically in the refold community or in the greater immersion learning community, but I think specifically in the refold community, these are the people whom this video is mainly addressed to. And there are certain people, I don't know if they're younger, I don't know what it is, but it seems like, I think it's just this, in this high achieving language learning kind of group that I find myself in. There are these people who spend all day or all their actual time preparing and worrying about, is their method like the most efficient? Am I being the most efficient with my time? Somebody came to me and was like, I only got 3 hours a day. Am I being like, I want to make sure I'm using those hours efficiently. I'm like, 3 hours a day? It don't matter what you doing, as long as it's generally okay, and 3 hours a day is gonna be perfectly fine, right? It's kind of crazy, but I just want to kind of make a video about talking about addressing this kind of situation, something I've been noticing. Haven't really said anything, but I think it'll be interesting to make a video on the topic. And getting into that, the reason why I'm even making this video isn't because I find it like funny or I'm trying to like be belittling or anything like to these people. I'm making this video because it's specifically something I struggled with before I started like getting into language learning. Like when I was trying to learn language, this is the same kind of thing I was struggling with, and so that's why I'm making a video on it, to talk about these kind of things. Let's talk about that. When I first started learning language, I didn't know what I was doing at all. I had no idea. All I knew was I wanted to learn language, specifically Spanish at that time, and then it switched to Esperanto. Another story. But I had no idea how to start. I had no idea what I was doing, what like materials, how much it was gonna cost. Like, you know, like I said, should I start reading? Should I do this? Should I do that? There's a lot of stuff, right? Very overwhelming. So I did what I naturally do, and I researched my butt off, right? Just research, more research. Me saying that, I'm saying that I am someone who has also dealt with this situation. And you get to the point where you spend more research or more time studying and preparing to immerse, preparing to learn the language than actually learning the language. And so that's why I'm here, where even so, those people that even struggle with optimization, or they struggle with over optimization. Now, before we get into the meat of this topic, I want to clarify that I don't think optimization is a bad thing. Right? I want to clarify that. I do not think optimization is a bad thing. I think over optimization can be a bad thing. And what do I mean by this? Basically, optimization and over optimization is not a bad thing as long as you're also willing or able to put in the hours. But if your over optimization is getting in the way of you actually putting in the time, then it's a bad thing. And I understand the meaning behind it, right? You don't want to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours doing the wrong thing, right? Language learning is a very long investment. You don't want to just sit there and just spend all day, you know, doing something wrong, and then realizing, you know, oh, this is so wrong, I shouldn't have did this, and then going back and then trying to either relearn it or unlearn it first, whatever bad things that you picked up, and then relearn the right way. You don't want to do that. I get that. But it's a little different when we're talking about in the context of immersion learning, right? Learning through immersion, right? That's a little bit, optimization becomes a different thing then, right? Output is a different story. There's optimizations potentially to output, but honestly, I think output boils down to mostly the same thing too. So yeah, let's get into the hot takes, okay? It's about to get spicy. I'm gonna first start off by saying, I honestly don't think optimization is a very big deal. Like, it's not a big deal at all. Like, it doesn't matter, right? What do I mean by it doesn't matter? I mean, yes, is there a thing that's too unoptimized? Is there a thing that's too far away from immersion learning that will not lead to the desired results. 100%. It's this, but I'm a firm believer that if you have a splendidly mediocre implementation of immersion learning and what Refold does, or in other, ALG and all that other stuff, like Dreaming Spanish stuff, if you have a splendidly mediocre version of that, it will get you to, with the same hours as another person, it will get you to reasonably the same level as the other person, as long as you put in, assuming y'all have studied or acquired the same skills, like the same skill set, right? Because you can put 1,000 hours into reading and nothing else, you'll be a god at reading, but pretty at everything else, right? And vice versa if we're talking about speaking or listening or writing, right? That's what I mean. So if, assuming the people put in the same amount of hours towards the similar skills, then they will come out with roughly the same skill set. I'm not saying that they'll be the exact same. I'm not saying that the person who optimizes a little bit will be a little bit better at this, will know a couple more words, or will be a little bit more this in this way. But guess what? Y'all still be within the same range. There'll be things that you're good at that they're not good at, and things that they're good at that you're not good at. You know what I mean? Like, or worse at, better or worse at theoretically. But it don't really matter, because y'all got to say y'all at the same spot. Example, we're talking like a language is relatively close to English. We're talking, like, in my case will be Spanish or any Romance language. And y'all both put 1,500 hours into something, right? Into the language. Even split watching, reading. Let's just assume 50-50, right? But this person really optimized, and he really maximized his free flow, combined with the interactive immersion, combined with the Anki, all perfect formatted and everything, and he combined all of that crap together. And you just said, I'm gonna just watch, I'm gonna look up, and I'm gonna do Anki for the first couple months and leave it alone. And just see how it goes, right? I'm gonna do Anki for like the first 6 months and leave it alone, and I'm gonna just watch and look up with my full attention, and boom, right? I personally think that after 1,500 hours, y'all are gonna be basically the same level. So we're talking B2. In my case, I would assume, I'm thinking B2, right? A solid, very solid B2. Y'all are both gonna be B2. Will they be better? Would that person hyper optimize be maybe an hour, 100 to 100 to a 200 max, potentially better at you at certain things in terms of hours? So if this person, in theory, this isn't actually vetted, or I have no idea if it's even true, but would this person be in theory at 100 hours or 100 and 200 hours maximum, whatever, better than you? But if you're at 1,500, then this person, even though he's at 1,500, he's at like a theoretical 1,700 hours. Which, again, don't even know if that's true. It doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, 100, 200 hours, like, oh no, I could have maximized it. I think that's a bunch of BS. Honestly, I think it don't matter. Like, the main thing is you put in the hours, because what ends up happening is, now, okay, actually, let me clarify this. If you have unlimited willpower and you just love it, right? And if you actually spend the hours, right? That's the most important, because you can prepare all you want to work. If you don't actually spend in the time, then it ain't gonna amount to much. But if you actually have unlimited will, willing to do all these crazy, quirky things, similar to like Matt did with his kind of obsessive tendencies, and then go and do that, yeah, I'm cool. Do it. I'm not saying you better to do it than not do it, right? But if you're like most people, right, you actually have other things. There's, you have other obligations. You have things that, like, there's some things that you just don't want to do, right? That you might like in the beginning, but they grow tedious, or this or that. Then, right? I don't think it matters much. Personally, I don't think it was a big video. So yeah, that's my hot take. Let's see. So with that being said, that's my kind of hot take out there. what I think is important is optimizing things in terms of that'll maximize your adherence to something. I think that's incredibly important and incredibly powerful. That's why leading by interest is such a big deal, right? So that is something that I'm like 100% on board with. But it's just the tedium that kind of entails the other side of optimization, which is just like, is my Anki cards perfect, or is this is this kind of like, am I doing it wrong? Am I gonna just completely spend 1,000 hours and not be anywhere? It's that side of it that's kind of like, because you actually have people that are like desperate, that are really trying to figure out like, and they're just freaking out. And I'm like, okay, cool. So you're desperate. You're trying to maximize. You're trying to figure this stuff out. You're just working. The gears are turning. You're DMing random people in the Discord trying to figure out, if you're doing everything right. And I ask, okay, I get you. How much have you actually immersed this week? And they tell me, maybe like 2 or 3 hours. Like, I think that's honestly a problem. I think that's actually why you're not where not where you are, right? I spent, X amount of time. I think tracking your hours, knowing how much time you're spending, and spending actually using the time is going to be the largest determining factor out of everything, except for adherence. Well, which adherence amounts to hours too, right? It's going to be the most important thing. Because even if, right, now, if you're dealing with something like learning disabilities, you're dealing with something like ADHD, you're dealing with like, children, or, that can distract you, like you got like a toddler next to you in Briz's case. Like, if you're dealing with those things that can cause your attention to waver, or, to make things not, make it hard to be engaged, that's still an hours problem, right? That's still because while you're disengaged, while your 3-year-old's hitting you upside the head with the fire truck, you're not paying attention to, whatever material you're watching. So those hours don't count. You're not the whole hour, the amount of time you weren't paying attention and the amount of time it takes you to kind of relocate yourself. That time doesn't count. So it's still an hours issue. It's still how much time. And when I say 1,500 hours, I mean 1,500 hours locked in, engaged, where you're able to follow the whole plot or the whole whatever the topic is of that video or book or whatever. That's what matters. That is what counts. Just like I said, for those of y'all that like get into this hyper optimization, I get it. You got like a lot of people that are very like industrious and are very overachieving or high achieving, kind of people in the community. I get that. But I think the more you actually learn the language, the more, or the further you progress in your like ability, or the further you progress in your skill level, the faster you realize, the more chill about things that you become. And I think that's important to realize. It's you just get more chill about stuff, and stuff just stops becoming a big deal. And in my case, right, I think this should tie back to me in a sense, because I stopped doing Anki after about a year in. I've been learning, for people who don't know, I've been learning Spanish for about 3.5 years. The end of December will be, 3.5 years, whatever. I've been learning Spanish for like 3.5 years. I stopped doing Anki in year 1, right? And people like, some people are like, oh no, like what? Anki is such a revolutionary thing, which, to be fair, it is, and it completely helped me in the beginning get the rope thing. Like, to get the ropes or get a handle on things. Thank you, Jesus. Completely helped me with all that. Only thing is, I grew to hate Anki. I didn't like Anki. It got annoying, got tedious. I just wanted to watch this show, and I'm sitting there, got to stop and type and save all this stuff and whatever. Didn't like Anki. Did not like it. Even though it only took me a couple minutes to do my reps. That became a very anxious thing, anxiety riddled thing. So I just left Anki. And guess what? I still learn words. I still learn a lot of words. Probably, honestly, most of my vocabulary at this point is based on not Anki. You know what I mean? Like, most of my vocabulary. So it's crazy. Like, you still learn stuff. I still recognize stuff. You improve your abilities. You don't, so like, that's the same thing I feel like with a lot of stuff. Output might be a little bit different because output is a performance kind of skill set, so you need to drill certain things in order to kind of get that out. But you still need to optimize it to some crazy thing, unless you're talking about pronunciation. Then you gotta, because it's a lot of subtleties in that, so you gotta really kind of work on that. Output is a little bit different, but it's still kind of the same thing. You know, you get like 80% of your results from 20% of the work or effort, potential perceived effort, whatever. But so it doesn't, I don't think it matters, to be honest. It's just, just relax, do y'all thing, y'all. Just put in the hours, figure out the roadmap, figure out what you want to do. Get a very vague or general thing. I want to kind of do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. Get a beautifully mediocre learning routine, and then just do it, and make tweaks along the way. That's it. Slight tweak. Like, you don't even, we're talking like, well, I don't like this book, so I want to read another book, or I don't like this book, or instead of that, my Pomodoro, I'll switch it from 30 minutes to 25 minutes because I realize I'm struggling at the end of that. Or I'm gonna increase my break time. Just little things like that. That's all you need, bro. It's not that crucial. So at the end of the day, this is what I want to say. At the end of the day, I personally think that nothing else matters at the end of the day, except for the hours you put in. If you're learning English, no. Well, I guess you can say if you're learning. If you're English speaker, English native, learning Spanish or another Romance language, or really anybody learning a language that's close to theirs, put in 1,000 hours. Let that be the focus. Here's the blueprint, right? So nothing else matters at the end of the day, but here is like the blueprint to a beautifully mediocre roadmap or a study plan. If you're learning a language that's relatively close to your native language, so like category 1 or 2 or whatever, based on the FSI, anyway, doesn't even matter. Learn the alphabet, learn some pronunciation, basic pronunciation, watch a lot of media, lean towards things that are easier for you to understand. If there's a couple things in there that are really difficult, that's perfectly fine. Do lookups, look up things a lot, right? Look up things a lot, just pause, repeat a lot, right? To get your brain used to it. Spend a lot of time doing that. Read too. I recommend you read a little bit later, a few months in. Don't read, the right ratio can be whatever. Just make sure you don't become too reading dominant. So make sure, I would say, at least 50% listening and watching, and make slight tweaks in terms of adherence along the way, and fast forward 1,000 hours. Start outputting at whether either I recommend 500 hours or you can do it 1,000. 2,000 is a little. I mean, you kind of doing the most at that point. But if you want to do it, do your thing. Like, it's fine. That's it. Do that for forever, and you are going to be a language god. So yeah, I think that's all I had to talk about. Interesting. I just felt like making a video. Also, at the end of the video, updates coming up. 1,300 hours. I'm like 3 hours away from being at 1,300 hours. I'm making a 1,300 hour update video. I might do a pronunciation video, how I practice pronunciation, because I've had a lot of people asking me about that. We'll get into that. I'll see how that goes. So yeah, catch you later.